we've got this sort of sticking plaster put on. Government has said that for 3 weeks it will provide some money to this fertiliser company that makes carbon dioxide as a spin-off, which apparently, if we don't get the spin-off of carbon dioxide, you know, hospitals are going to be in trouble, the nuclear industry is going to be in trouble, food manufacturers are going to be in trouble. First of all, how bad is this carbon dioxide crisis for a business like you or for the food industry? And secondly, do you think the government has done enough to fix it?
Well, look, I think we've got at least a short-term fix, which provides an opportunity to find a longer-term solution.
3 weeks is enough to find a longer-term solution?
Well, I think the sad fact is that in the short to medium term, the price of carbon dioxide is going to go up. Now, fortunately,
carbon dioxide... presumably, because if this business couldn't afford to make it at the moment, and you know, prices have gone up sixfold over the past year, we're presumably talking about a massive increase in carbon dioxide prices.
But carbon dioxide is a very small part of the cost of food manufacturing.
Right.
Now, I think it raises another more serious issue, which is the strategic resilience of our supply chains. You know, the fact that 60% of carbon dioxide is produced as a byproduct of fertiliser manufacturing by one company says to me that, you know, we were in a position of vulnerability.
Right. And just to be clear, when you say the security of our supply chains, what you actually mean is the security of the way that we make food, the way that we get food to shops, something that's absolutely vital to all our ability to eat and, you know, for the economy to function.
Absolutely.
So it was very serious, and...
It was very serious. This was the most serious crisis of all, and I think, you know, the government have bought some time to find a longer-term solution.
But you can't build a new CO2 plant overnight, can you?
No. I think there's going to be a medium-term solution, which is higher prices, and then, frankly, there has to be some investment in alternative methods of production of carbon dioxide to actually get us out of this, us basically having our head in the lion's mouth, you know, with really effectively only one provider.
Now, this is just one contributor to inflation. We've got surging gas prices. We are seeing rates of inflation, actually, that we really haven't seen for more than 20 years. As somebody in charge of an incredibly important business, how long do you think these really quite significant price rises are going to be with us?
I think it's almost impossible to forecast, Robert, but I mean, I think we're probably looking at, for food overall, you know, mid-single-digit increases, which is much higher than we've had in recent years.
So 4 to 5%. I mean, I remember when there was deflation, so we're talking...
Absolutely, and there's been deflation until quite recently.
So 4 to 5% increases in food prices for months, maybe years.
Well, I think certainly while we get through this particular set of issues that we're contending with, you know, which include shortage of labour in a number of important areas of food manufacturing, shortage of HGV drivers, which can be fixed, and we're all working very hard to fix. But, you know, one thing I would say to you is there are some very, very substantial risks out there. I don't think the end result will be a horrendous crisis at Christmas. And I would hate people to get the impression that we're going to have a terrible Christmas. They've got to go out and panic buy, because so much effort is going into averting that, that I think it's going to be much better than perhaps
Can I ask you about that? Because your Tesco colleagues did say to the Cabinet Office last week that they feared just that risk, that there would be panic buying if the shortage of HGV drivers were not solved. So what is the solution? How are you going... Because as I understand it, you're short of something like 800 drivers. So where are they going to come from before Christmas?
Well, I think, you know, first of all, we are recruiting more. We are training more. The government have done something to unblock the testing system, which they needed to do because it was...
You mean testing to get your licence?
Yeah, to get your licence. I mean, that was completely frozen for a period. It's now been unfrozen. We're using more train traffic. We use railways to move products around the country from, you know, the Midlands. We're putting more stuff on the rail. All of these are partial solutions.
And what about this idea of giving a special dispensation to EU drivers? Did you get any sense from the Cabinet Office that they will allow some of these drivers in?
I think it's a thoroughly sensible thing to do for the next 6, 12, 18 months.
But have you had any indication from the government that they will take that seriously?
Not up until now. I think it's something they would find a very, very difficult pill to swallow.
But then, if you say to them, if we can't get the drivers quickly, there is going to be a crisis at Christmas, doesn't that persuade them?
I think it has some impact. But, you know, what we're trying to do, Robert, is not to over-dramatise a series of difficulties. You know, it'd be very easy to kind of cry wolf and say it's the end of the world if we can't do this. The reality is, you know, we're achieving levels of availability in our stores at the moment that are about 1 to 2%. We're achieving something like 95% availability.
So why are we seeing photographs, including in Tesco, of some shelves looking very empty? What's that all about?
Well, I think it's very selective. You know, I've seen pictures on social media today of stores that are full. I go around a lot of competitive stores. I could show you pictures of our competition, but they wouldn't be representative at all. So I think the current situation is being over-dramatised. There are risks. The food industry, food retailers, even the government are working to try to avert the worst happening. And I think we will get through Christmas without too much damage.
So, now, maybe shortages in some areas, but nothing that you would think of as a crisis.
I think there are going to be some temporary shortages of some products, some sizes of products. Some manufacturers, to maximise their production, are saying instead of making 8 sizes of something, they're only going to make 3. You know, that still gives consumers reasonable choice. We'll find a way through it.
I can ask you one other question, which is whenever the Prime Minister is asked about the surging cost of living, he says, but wages are going up. Do you have the resources as a big company to put up the wages of your people above this 4 to 5%, for example, increase in food inflation?
We certainly have been moving the wages of our people forward, and I actually think that's a good thing. You know, I think higher wages in general.
But ahead of inflation, can you do that?
Well, I don't think we're going to see overall inflation necessarily at that level, but if we have to, we will. You know, and I think that looking after, you know, we're the largest private sector employer in the UK. We employ over 300,000 people. We have to keep faith with them, and we have done that right through the COVID period, and we will do so beyond it.
John, so nice to see you. Come back again soon.